You guys, I love Greek mythology. I mean it. I'm a big Greek mythology nerd. So this week, I thought I'd share with you 5 of my all-time favourite Greek mythology books, and no, none of them are from the Percy Jackson series. Don't get me wrong, the Percy Jackson series will always have an incredibly special place in my heart, because it's the reason why I got into Greek mythology in the first place. But as I've delved into the world of Greek mythology, I've come across some truly inspiring and special retellings that deserve more time in the sun. So let's get to it, because I am genuinely excited to share these with you. Oh, and stick to the end of the video because the very last author is an indie author and you're not going to want to miss their book. The first book I want to introduce you to is Cersei by Madeline Miller. This book gave me so much joy. I don't know about you, but I'm really into retellings that tell the story of minor characters in a whole different light. Cersei is exactly that. It follows the story of minor goddess and witch Cersei as she's exiled on a remote island by the gods for performing some witchcraft when she shouldn't have been. She's then visited by heroes, men, and gods alike on the island, whether she wants them there or not. You might know her from Homer's Odyssey and her time with Odysseus, but either way, this story is empowering, engaging, and if you like stories that shine the light on the impact heroes and gods have on the people around them, then this is a great book for you. Next up is another one by Madeline Miller, The Song of Achilles. Madeline has a way with words. The way she presents the conflict between gods and men again in this book is beautiful. The Song of Achilles retells the story of Patroclus and his encounter and then relationship with the well-known hero and demigod Achilles. The Song of Achilles is based on Homer's Iliad, but the difference here is that the perspective is shifted onto Patroclus and it shines a light on the impact that power and glory has on relationships. It's gripping, refreshing, and heartbreaking. If you know the story of Achilles but want a completely different perspective and one that's a little bit more modern, then you have got to give this a read. The third book on my list is Lore by Alexandra Bracken. Oh, just look at that cover. Look at it. If you're a fan of the Percy Jackson series, then you'll love this book. Like the Percy Jackson series, this is told in modern day-ish. It's less of a retelling and more of a what are the gods doing now type of thing. Lore is a bit like Percy Jackson meets the Hunger Games and tells the story of an orphan living in New York, Lore, who is avoiding a game called the Aegon. This game sees 9 of the Olympian gods turn mortal for 7 days, as punishment for defying Zeus back in the day. If someone kills one of those gods within those 7 days, then they are granted their immortality and their powers, and the god dies. Lore's family were killed in a previous Aegon, so she's trying to do everything within her power to avoid taking part this year, until Athena shows up wounded on her doorstep. This book is action-packed and fast-paced. If you're looking for something that you cannot put down and you'll read really quickly, this is the one for you. It deals with things like feminism, represents the gods and their flaws really well, and I personally really enjoyed it. Next up, Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. Ariadne is yet another retelling from the woman's perspective. Can we see a theme yet? If you know the story of the Minotaur, then you may have heard of Ariadne. This book tells her story from her perspective in full. Everything from the birth of the Minotaur to her encounter with Theseus and everything that happened after that. This one started off a little slow for me, but when it picked up, it really picked up. Ariadne's story is rich, diverse, and tragic, and Jennifer's Saint does a really good job of taking us along for the ride. This book showcases one of the things that I love the most about Greek mythology retellings, and that's that the story gets cemented in your mind so much better. And that's simply because we get to see everything that's happening from this character's perspective, their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, everything. Which means that some of these stories are ones that you're never gonna forget. Okay, and lastly, it's indie author time! Indie author time! I'm so pleased to share with you Medusa by Rosie Hewlett. I found this book on Instagram of all places. I searched the word Medusa just because I was curious, and this book popped up. I'm all for Medusa retellings, so I knew I had to give this a try, and I'm so glad I did, because I read this book in a day. Medusa tells the story of Medusa in her own words. Wanting to take control of her own story, she tells us everything from her childhood to her punishment from the gods, and then everything that happened afterwards with Perseus. This story doesn't hang around. It draws you in, takes you along for the ride, and spits you out the other side a changed person. Medusa's story is ultimately really tragic, and Rosie does such a good job of representing that really well, shedding light on it, but ultimately writing a really entertaining book. I'm not kidding, there's a reason why this book won an award. This is one of those books that inspires me to write. Thank goodness for indie authors. So there we have it, 5 of my all-time favourite Greek mythology books so far. There are plenty more to read and even some to write. But I want to know from you, what Greek mythology story is your favourite, and have you read any of these Greek mythology books or any others? I would love to know, so leave me a comment. And I will see you next Thursday for another video.